there! My name is Kaitlyn, and today I'm here to talk about a book that I finished yesterday. That book is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book, I really loved this book. I think that I knew that I would like it based on what people have said about it. I read the Grisha trilogy so that I would know everything about this world that had already been developed before this book. So I'm gonna start with like a spoiler-free section, and then I'm gonna go into some spoiler stuff, but I will tell you when I do that. I wrote some notes for this video, and I have 6.5 pages of notes. So just so you're prepared. Six of Crows is a heist story, basically, about these 6 young criminals who are hired to break into this place called the Ice Court, and they are trying to kidnap this person, or rescue, really. They're trying to rescue this person who's being held hostage there. And this person's name, I don't really know how to pronounce. Probably most of the names of everything I'm just gonna like butcher. I don't know where to put this over here. So just so you're like aware of that. But his name is something like Bayer or something. They're trying to rescue that guy. He is being held hostage because he has created this drug called Jurda Parem, and this drug elevates the powers of Grisha. Grisha are people who have magic. There's different types of Grisha. This was all laid out in the Grisha trilogy and a little bit in here as well. This drug is deadly to Grisha. Like, it elevates their powers while they're on it, but once they go through withdrawals, it's highly addictive. They want more of the drug, and if they don't get it, they're likely to die. Even if they do get it, they will probably live a much shorter life because their powers are being used up so fast. It's just like draining the life out of them. It's really bad for them. But once they take the drug, they want more of it, you know? This is how drugs work. There aren't really Grisha just taking this drug willingly. They're being forced to take it by people who want to use their powers, because once the Grisha are addicted to this drug, then they'll pretty much do anything for the drug. They'll become someone's slave, basically. But in this world, Grisha are really mistreated anyway. They're already being used as like indentured servants, things like that. In certain countries, they're hunted and killed. There are people who want to stop this from happening, and so they set out to rescue this man or kidnap him, whatever, and stop this drug from reaching the masses, because it's gonna fuck all the shit up, basically. So I will say that I liked this book a lot more than the Grisha trilogy. I liked all of the characters a lot more than the characters in the Grisha trilogy. There were certain characters in the Grisha trilogy that I thought were really compelling, but I felt like all of the characters in this were written like that, to be very like complex and dark, but you still root for them. Probably my favorite thing about this book is the characters. They're really flawed, and they're sort of like bad people, honestly. But not. Like, they're good people, but they do really bad things, is what I'll say. Like, they're literally like murderers. They kill people, they do all this bad shit. But as you dive into their backstory, you figure out why they're doing these things, and you find out that really they don't have that much choice in the matter. They're sort of like a victim of circumstance. Another thing that I really like about this book is how dark it is at times. Like, there's some really gruesome things that happen that I really enjoy, some of which I will touch on later. One maybe negative about this book, I didn't really feel like it was a negative, but I've heard some people state it as a negative, is that it's very slow building. It's slow building because you're really getting to know the characters and getting to know their backstories and their motivations. So the like action-packed heist doesn't happen until well into the story, so it is a little bit slow building, but if you're prepared for it, like I was prepared for it, I don't think that it was a bad thing, really, to be honest. Once the heist hits at the end, it's very action-packed. I was on the edge of my seat waiting to know what would happen. The reader is like kept in the dark for a lot of what's gonna happen. We don't see all of their plans, but we see some of their plans, so we don't know how things are going to unfold. And I think like just enough information, like the right amount of information, is revealed to us as it goes on, for it to be very suspenseful, but for us to still be kind of in the know. It's just great. Now I'm gonna start talking about some spoilery stuff, so if you have not read this, probably you should go read it right now. Goodbye. So, you've read this, I've read this, I'm gonna talk at you about it because I loved it. I want to talk about it. I'm gonna start by talking about the characters because the characters were the best part. I love the characters, all of them. They're amazing. So I'm gonna start talking about Kaz. Kaz is the main character. Kaz is like their leader. He's such a badass. He's like pretty scary. Like the first scene where we meet Kaz and Inej and Jesper, I was like pretty scared of Kaz. I was like, damn. He always has tricks up his sleeve. He's always prepared for pretty much every situation. There's a scene in particular that I'm thinking of when I say that he always has tricks up his sleeve. Like when they enter the prison, and obviously you can't just like bring stuff with you into prison, but he has these lockpicks in his mouth, but the prison guards search his mouth and they find the lockpicks in there. And as the reader, we're like, oh no, they found his lockpicks. How's he gonna get himself out of prison now? But then after that, it's revealed that Jesper is a Grisha, and he forms lockpicks just from like the bars because he can control metal and all that stuff. And then also, when they're on like the, what's it called, the White Island or whatever, like in the middle of the ice court, and Kaz has swallowed, I don't remember what it was, like some sort of like explosives or something. It sounds dangerous, but he like swallows these things and he has to like puke them back up so that he can use them at that point. That was very interesting, but it just shows how prepared he is. But he is prepared for everything until the end, really, when suddenly he has a weakness, which is feelings for Inej. And then he's not prepared and she gets captured. Honestly, I was sort of surprised by his feelings for Inej. Not necessarily that he had them, but he seems like the kind of guy who would really like push that down and be like, nope, this is gonna be a bad thing. This is gonna be like a weakness. Like he seems like the kind of guy who would be like, no, love is weakness, gotta push this away, can't do this, which he does kind of do, but I sort of expected like more of that, I guess. But I guess it makes sense that these like repressed feelings that he's probably had for a while could come up when they're spending this much time together on like the boat, going to Firda, and as they feel like they could die during this heist. I will say that I did pretty much ship them from the beginning. So, Kaz's backstory. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Jordy's death, the trauma, how it affected Kaz, his mental health issues. It was obviously very tragic. One thing that I expected, because before we saw how Jordy died and saw that whole scene where he's like floating on Jordy's body, Kaz had talked about how Jordy's death was Pekka Rollins' fault. And at that point I pretty much expected Pekka Rollins, to have like actually like directly murdered Jordy in order to warrant Kaz's like aggression focused on Pekka Rollins. But that was not the case. He was more like indirectly the cause of Jordy's death. But I think that like that traumatic experience of waking up with all these dead bodies, one being your brother's, using him as like a flotation device so that you can live, seeing his like unblinking eyes looking up at you, that would be very traumatic. And I totally understand why he can't touch people, because it brings him back to that. He totally has some like PTSD going on. We need to get this boy a mental health counselor. The dregs need to like hire a psychiatrist or a psychologist, a counselor. Because really, if you think about it, if you want these gangsters to be like on top of their game, you want them to be mentally healthy, or as mentally healthy as you can be when you're like doing these horrible things and killing all these people. This is a really good idea. I think that the dregs should totally just like hire a psychologist. I'm sure they could all benefit from some counseling. I don't think that Inej really understands that Kaz's walls are up because he's traumatized, and I think that if she did like fully understand that, I think she would be more patient, but I think she probably should practice a little bit more patience with him. But at the same time, I totally understand why Inej thinks that being with Kaz would not be a great idea. And like, honestly, good for her. Like, I don't think I would be strong enough to be able to do that. And props to her for being like, nope, nope, if your walls are up like this, like, I can't do this. Especially since during this book she develops like specific dreams. She wants to learn to sail. She wants to stop these slave traders, as many as she can. And she shouldn't give up these dreams to stay in Ketterdam and be with Kaz, you know what I mean? And I don't think that Kaz should ask her to stay. That's something that bothers me that happens in like books sometimes, is that, or like at the end of Friends even, is something that I think of when Ross is like, Rachel, don't go to Paris and have this opportunity of a lifetime. Stay here with me instead. Like, no, it's a bad idea. Don't do it. But I do honestly ship them, but to be quite honest, I sort of see them at the end of this going their separate ways. But I haven't read Crooked Kingdom yet, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm really excited to read it. Ugh. Anyways, Inej is possibly my favorite character. She's definitely one of my favorites. It's hard to pick a favorite. They're all so great in their own ways. They're very diverse. But Inej is also like a badass. She's so hardcore. She has all these knives that she has named after these saints. And I loved the shout out to Alina from the Grisha trilogy, because one of her knives is named after her. But I love Inej's dream that she develops, her like noble cause of wanting to stop these slavers and learn how to sail and have her own ship once she gets the money from this impossible heist. I just want her to be able to get everything that she wants in life. I feel like she deserves it. She's gone through so much. I hope she kills that like peacock lady and just like burns her like pleasure house to the ground. But it's a shame that she was captured at the end of this book. I'm hopeful that they will get her back. I can't wait to read the next book and find out what happens. I also love Inej's friendship with Nina. So Nina is also amazing, of course. And I think she was actually in the Grisha trilogy as like a minor character, like in the third book, I think. But she speaks pretty much like every language that's in this world, which is awesome, and I'm totally jealous, and that's just so cool. That's a great skill to have. It proves to be incredibly useful in this book. She's also a Grisha. She's a heartender. So she can like stop people's hearts, stop their breathing, or just like slow down their heartbeat so that they pass out, which is incredibly useful. One thing that I want to say about the Grisha that are on the Jurda Parem, it's one scene that I remember. I don't remember when it happens, but there's one of these Grisha on this drug, and this Grisha just like squeezes the blood out of all these people, just like a sponge, just like a person sponge, just like shh. Then all their blood just like comes out of them until they're just like this sack of like skin and drained organs. I loved it. I thought it was great. I love stuff like that. I don't know. But of course, Nina takes this drug of her own free will at the end to sacrifice herself so that she can stop all these soldiers who are trying to stop the 6 people. They're so close to getting away, and then Nina makes it happen. I love her little like quips and her confidence and just the things that she says. She's great. But I hope that she won't get addicted. I don't want her to die. I don't want her to live that life. And her and Matthias? Her and Matthias? But I think that her and Matthias are like a pretty great couple. I was pretty into them. I love that she helped him to overcome like his brainwashed thoughts and his prejudices against the Grisha that were put into him by his country, Firda. And I love seeing the flashbacks of like how they met each other and the scenes where they were trying to survive together and how they went from hating each other to being like, oh, we've saved each other's lives. Oh, I guess we're friends, but we're also attracted to each other. But Matthias, I like fully hated him at first. Like when we first read from his perspective, I just hated him. I thought he was such an asshole, which I mean he was, but it really wasn't his fault. He was like brainwashed by his country, their ideas about Grisha. Luckily he overcomes it. And when he helped his former boss person, what was his name? Brum? That guy? When Nina got locked in that cage when they were in the ice core, I believed that Matthias had like turned on her and betrayed them all. I totally believed it. I was like, I knew it. I knew this guy was rotten. But then luckily that wasn't the case. At that point he like fully decided his allegiance. Really liked seeing like his and Nina's like dueling perspectives, because they had opposite perspectives, like different sides of like the Druskel and the Grisha. Like he's seen Grisha murder like his family and his village and all these people, and she has seen his kind murder a bunch of like her friends and her Grisha. And it just shows that there's no like good or bad side, and not one group is like wholly bad, even though both groups have done really bad things. But it's really on like an individual basis. Can't judge one person based on the group that they come from. Just because a group of people does bad things doesn't mean that every person who looks like that group is gonna be like that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So I think that we can all just learn something from Nina and Matthias. And I love what they were able to overcome and what they were able to learn from each other. And I really hope that they can overcome these new challenges they're facing with her taking Jurdaperem. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if I am. Then of course there's Jesper. He's my favorite. Like I have such a soft spot for him. I didn't even really like take any notice of him for probably the first half of this book, but then suddenly he like came out of nowhere and just like hit me like a goddamn train. I am so attached to Jesper. I didn't even notice that he had a crush on Kaz. I was like completely oblivious. I was just like, oh, it's Jesper. He's here. But I loved his like comic relief and all of his comments. Of course his banter with Wylan. I don't know if I'm saying that name right either. I love how he went from like really genuinely making fun of Wylan to more like gently teasing him and then flirting with him. I was really into it and I totally ship them. They're amazing together. Potentially. I don't know yet. We don't know that much about them together, but I'm totally in it. And also I really just want to know more about Wylan as a character. We don't read anything from his perspective. We hear some things about his father and how he ran away from home. We learn that it's because his father was a horrible person and that Wylan can't read. But I just really want to know more about him. And I also want to know more about Jesper. I feel like this book was more focused on the other four characters, and I want Jesper and Wylan to be like more included in Crooked Kingdom, so we'll see if that happens. I also totally didn't anticipate Jesper being a Grisha, but that was awesome, and also really good timing for us to find out about that, because I was totally like, how the hell is Kaz gonna get out of this cell right now? Okay, so I got interrupted when I was filming this video, and it's been like a week and I kind of forgot about it. I forgot that I had to finish recording it, so I don't really remember exactly where I left off, but I think I just finished talking about the characters. So where I left off in my notes, the last thing that I said was very attached to the characters, lol. I'm great at making notes. But the actual heist in this book I was also really interested in. I thought it was pretty well executed. Not that I've read that many heist stories, but I very much enjoyed it. There were so many like new obstacles popping up that you didn't necessarily see coming, and it was always a surprise to see like how they would handle it, and it was always like, I was always in the mindset of like, oh no, how are they gonna solve this new problem? I can't think of a way that they would get out of this one. The part where they're in the prison and Kaz goes to find Pekka Rollins really surprised me. I didn't expect him to let Pekka Rollins go, but I guess it's a good thing that he did, since he needed the favor from him in the end. But I'm also confused. I don't know if I like missed something, because when Kaz came back from talking to Pekka Rollins, he had all this blood on his shirt. Where did that come from if he didn't like kill Pekka Rollins or hurt him in some way? If he just opened the door and let him go, like where did the blood come from? Did I miss something? I must have missed something. But yes, I love this book. I already like have the urge to reread this. Like, I love the characters. When a book has like really good characters that I really love, that's when I am like ready to reread it and reread it. So this will probably be one of the books that I just reread until I die. So that means that next I'll have to read Crooked Kingdom. I'm really excited, but I'm also kind of nervous because I loved Six of Crows so much. I don't want like anyone to die or anything bad to happen. I just want to like protect the children. Protect the children. But yes, I think I will wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of Six of Crows. Let's like gush about it together. Or if you hated it, you know, let me know. I'm really curious to know some opposing opinions. Let's talk about this book. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.